back and talk to y'all about the DJI FPV, DJI's first FPV drone. So, yeah, it looks cool. On paper it looks cool, but and by the way, you can find DJI FPV linked within this video's description. Just expand this live show's description, or if you're watching it after it was live, expand this video's description, and you can click the link there for DJI FPV. But what's interesting about it is, it's odd for DJI to release a new drone and for me to not purchase that drone. And this, this was a decision that I made, obviously right now because of the weird travel situation. Being able to be in international waters is not necessarily easily doable for me. So, for a drone that's an FPV drone, first-person view drone that requires, wearing the goggles, what that means is that as the remote pilot in command, I would be wearing goggles, and that is, that's not permissible. Now, in certain areas it may be, like if I'm in international waters or if I'm in another country where regulations, aren't quite as strict, it, probably wouldn't be a problem. But which I haven't, but if I bought the DJI FPV, how would I be able to fly it? Because, I couldn't put the goggles on and fly it, because if I did, then I wouldn't have visual line of sight with that drone. So, if I went out and bought DJI FPV, and I'm not bashing the product, it looks really cool, but if I went out and bought it, and let's say I went out and bought it and took it out in the field and filmed a video, the first flight, DJI FPV first flight, how could I do that? And, I'm not a lawyer, and, I don't know all of that lingo and, possible loopholes or whatever. But, the way that I interpreted it, rather, is that if I was flying with goggles, I wouldn't have visual line of sight with the drone. So I would be in violation of the law. And I don't want that. I don't have time for, any sort of gray areas. And, I wish that, and maybe you're an expert, maybe you're a lawyer, maybe you're with the FAA, who knows? A lot of people watch this. So if you've got some professional insight that's backed with hard evidence stating why, that would be doable, why that would be permissible, then I would love to buy the DJI FPV at that point, because, I'd love to fly it, film videos about it. But what I don't want, and what I would not allow to have happen, because, I know that there's people that, that are being made examples of daily, and I don't, that's not me. I don't want to, mess with any gray area. Yes, I do want to mess with the latest tech. Yes, I'm deeply disappointed that I could not buy the DJI FPV. And the reason I couldn't, again, because, being in the United States of America, at least currently, not having access to my boat to go out to international waters, I don't have a legally permissible playing field to play with that drone. So, that being the case, I'd rather, as they would say, err on the side of caution, because, the last thing I want, is any sort of trouble. I mean, number one, I don't want to mess with any gray areas, because if I did, then I'm set up for trouble. Well, if it was a gray area and I turned out to be in the right, I still wasted time, and time is money. So, even if it was a gray area and it turned out that I was right, Eddie says FPV drones will be required to fly at sanctioned AMA or other CBO at some point. So tell me about that. Let's see, Eddie K's RC. Tell me about that, man. I'm watching your comment in the live chat. So how would you? So, and again, I'm new, and I haven't had experience with FPV at all. You know, I'm a drone guy. You know, I go out and fly for to capture cinematic videos. But how would you? Let's say hypothetically that you bought the DJI FPV. Let's say you bought that. How would you be able to fly it in the United States of America? How would you be able to fly an FPV drone? See, that's where I'm confused, man. I mean, I would love to, but I don't want to get in any sort of gray area, because again, even if I came out in the right and didn't have to pay a fine or anything, the time that I wasted fighting that is money. Time is money. You can't, even if it's just an hour of your time, that's money. An hour is good money for a lot of people. So I'm really upset by this, man. I'm torn. Tell me what to do. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do. I mean, I know what I shouldn't do, and that's buy the DJI FPV, because if I bought it, of course I'm going to take it out and I'm going to fly it, and then that's where potential problems could start, and I don't want that. Now, when they come out with the next, cinematic drone for video that you can fly visual line of sight, maintain visual line of sight with that drone with your eyes, without any goggles on your face. When they come out with that, oh yeah, I'm going to be picking that up. But I just can't find a way to review DJI FPV without having goggles on. And then, well, what if somebody else was in the field with me? And what if they were flying it and I was talking about it? Well, I guess, in that scenario, would that even be permissible? Because if I was talking about it, but someone else was flying it, that would mean that they would be the remote pilot in command, that they would have the controller in their hands, but they would also be wearing goggles, and they would not be able to maintain visual line of sight with that drone. Sure, a visual observer could, and in that scenario, I could be the visual observer, but I don't think that's, unless the verbiage has changed. And again, I'm not a lawyer. So, maybe you are, maybe you know for sure. Maybe you have 100% solid understanding of the laws and you know what's up. I am not, and I don't claim to be. But, I really want to know how to fly DJI FPV, and I haven't found a way to do it. I mean, you got to know the pain, man. I mean, that thing came out, and I'm going over to epicdroneshow.com, and I'm clicking buy a drone, and I can't buy it because I know if I buy it, I'm going to be setting myself up for potential trouble. And I'm not trying to, this is not a troll type video. This is an honest video. I mean, what's a DJI drone that I have not bought? I mean, look back at my videos. I bought them all. But I didn't buy a DJI FPV because I'm afraid of the potential trouble that it could get me into. And it's sad. I don't want that. I don't want that for anyone. I really don't. And I mean, it's just, there's gotta be a solution. And what that solution is, or workaround, legally permissible workaround, whatever verbiage you want to insert. What would protect me if I did buy a DJI FPV? What would protect me if I did buy one and I did go out and I did fly it and I did post videos about it? I don't know a way around it. I mean, I can't be standing in the field while someone else is flying it because they're probably breaking the law, So, what am I what good's that going to do me if somebody else is doing, they're getting in trouble? Visual line of sight is somewhat ridiculous. You really can't see most drones that far at all. Well, now the visual line of sight thing, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. I think, Silas, I agree. The visual line of sight is kind of ridiculous. But, one thing, all humans have different, the quality of everyone's vision is different. So what one person may see 10 feet away, another person may be able to see several hundred feet away from them. So it's a I don't know. Now if they stipulated X number of feet from the remote piloting command, that's where it could get mucky. But I don't have a problem with the visual line of sight because I can see really far. And there's things that I can that I can attach to the drone and make it more visible at greater distances. And again, I don't go far anyway. I mean, I'm doing cinematic videos, low and slow. Christian says you can fly it as a normal drone without goggles. With goggles, you need a second person as a spotter. So great comment, Christian. So you can fly it as a normal drone. Okay, but let me ask you this, and don't answer if you don't feel comfortable doing so. But you said you can fly as a normal drone with with goggles. You need a second person as a spotter. But if I had goggles on and I had a second person there that was a spotter, the visual observer, unless I'm reading something incorrectly, I think I would still be in the wrong because I would be the remote pilot in command and I wouldn't be able to have visual line of sight of that drone. So, that being the case, I think I would be in violation of Part 107. Now, again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an expert with this. Maybe there's some sort of clause in there that states if it's an FPV drone that, I don't know. If there is, point me to it. Because if there is, I'm going to, toss somebody a few bucks and go out in the field with me. And be like, look, watch my back. Watch the drone. Let's see. Eddie's RC says the AMA has lobbied to the FAA to allow FPV and line of sight RC aircraft to fly in sanctioned fields that meet FAA requirement. It's my understanding that within these parameters, the drone or traditional RC aircraft will not be required to have technology to transmit the location of the drone and the pilot. Huh. Well, and that begs a question. If Eddie K's RC, that begs a question. If you got to go through all that hoopla to fly it, it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds like an inconvenience. I just want to go down to a Class G airspace where it's safe and responsible and fly. I don't want to have to go to some sort of green lighted field or whatever they want to call. I know I'm complaining here, but this is, man, remember when drones came out, how relaxed everything was for a few months? You could pretty much do anything that you wanted to. And I think that's what led to a lot of problems. Eddie K's RC, you're absolutely correct. Well, and see, that's the problem, and I think that's why this is going to. I don't know. I don't know if this is really going to hamper DJI's success with the DJI FPV. Maybe, possibly not everyone, looks at it like this, and they don't really analyze, what could happen. They may just say, oh, it's available to buy online, buy it, and, not really think twice about it. Not realizing what they may be getting themselves into. So, that being the case, I don't know if it's really going to hamper DJI sales of this drone, but, for someone like a lot of y'all, someone like myself that's been involved with the drone industry since its infancy, you can't help but to question, how's it potentially going to get you in trouble? And again, it's just not worth it, man. I'd love to, and honestly, I'd love to take it out and have a DJI FPV, but to be frank, that's just because it's the newest drone. Eddie says, I suspect the drone parks will become a thing in the future. Yes, it's probably going to be like skateboarding. Used to, you go out on a skateboard, some rollerblades, and go down the street. And then they started putting those signs up. No skateboards allowed. And then they built the skate parks. And then that place was so confined that it's like, man, do I even want to do this anymore? So I got to drive X number of miles to go to a park. And, it's just, I don't know. But yeah, the DJI FPV, I'm not really bummed that I can't buy one because of these reasons. But I would love to play with it. And be honest with you, though, I'm a photo and video guy. So, this is more about having fun flying. This is kind of a toy that can also capture video, but video is not its focal point. Whereas with your DJI Mini 2, your Mavic Air 2, your Mavic 2 Pro, those drones are for video. DJI FPV is for having fun and going fast and maneuvering around other objects and, racing other drone pilots. It's a different use case. You got to be a different kind of cat to say, hey, I want to go out and buy the DJI FPV. So I don't know. I'm disappointed because of all this legal verbiage that has deterred me from purchasing DJI FPV. But, I'm excited to see what DJI releases next. And obviously, the next drone that DJI comes out with, for video, that's that type of drone, I'll be picking that up. But I'm just bummed that, this is the first DJI drone that I couldn't buy because of regulations. Yeah, I could still purchase it. There's nothing, to my knowledge, legally that would prevent me from going to epicdroneshow.com and clicking buy a drone. There's nothing that would prevent me from making that purchase. But if I did make that purchase and I did put those goggles on and the government saw me wearing those goggles, it could be bad. And I just don't want that. I don't want that for y'all. I don't want that for myself. It's just one of those things. Sometimes you just gotta look at a situation and say, what are the pros and the cons? Okay, if I choose to do whatever, what might happen? And is that risk worth the potential reward? This is not trading penny stocks. This is not a matter of, you make a speculative investment and you lose it all. This is much worse. This is something that, it's kind of expensive. Even if DJI FPV was only a few $100, I'd still be in the same boat, because it doesn't matter if it's a few $100 or a few $1,000s, you still got those regulatory uncertainties hovering over one's head. You can't eliminate that. The government could, but they're not going to do that. The government gets an idea, and then the government's all about control. They're all about controlling taxes. So, once they have an idea, it just gets stricter and stricter and stricter. And then things often become so strict that there's really no value in doing whatever activity. In this case, drones. And that it's a shame, because of all that verbiage that exists, that it's deterring I've talked to a lot of people, a lot of other people within the drone industry that, are having the same feelings of disappointment that I am right now. But even though they're having the same feelings of disappointment, everybody I've spoken with, we're in agreement that it's the thing that has to be, it has to be done, because, you don't want to get yourself in potential legal trouble. That's never fun. No, you don't want to do that. Again, even if you come out squeaky clean, you've still wasted that time, and time is money, man. You can't waste. You could, but it's not enjoyable to waste time or money. It's not. So I am so disappointed about this, though. I mean, a few things worse than a new drone coming out and forcing yourself not to buy it, rather. And that's exactly what's happened here because of all this regulatory junk. And again, if it was a normal year and I was getting out of my boat and I was going to be in international waters where it's safe and permissible, I would do it. But because it's not a normal year still, unfortunately, travel's such a pain. I mean, yeah, you can travel, but it's such a pain that if you try to travel, it's not enjoyable. I don't like dealing with people. I don't like dealing with crowds. I don't want to deal with that. So for that reason, I'm not going to be in international waters in the foreseeable future. So I can't do it, man. I can't get the DJI FPV. And it's, there's tough decisions that one must make. And that's one of those tough decisions, not being able to get the DJI FPV. But, stepping back from it, doing my own due diligence and saying, hey, this is a potentially gray area. This is something that could potentially get me in a lot of trouble. This is something that should be avoided. And that's what it is. I mean, I can't argue with the analysis. I can't argue with the facts. I can't argue with the uncertainties. I mean, it is what it is. And I'm confident. And although it's disappointing to me because I wanted to, like I've done with all drones that have released, I wanted to have one and take it out in the field and review it and answer questions and, problems that are encountered, troubleshoot, post those videos of those problems, post videos of the fixes for the problems. I wanted to do all of that, but I can't because of the potential gray areas and the potential regulatory gray areas. And it's a shame, and that's the that's the bad part about government. And it's not just the government in one country. I mean, governments in most countries are too controlling. They're too restrictive, and you can't really do and explore to the level of granularity that you would like to because of those restrictions. It's really a shame. It handicaps us all, and it's disappointing. It really is. It's really disappointing to not be able to go out and safely and thoroughly explore new technology because there's regulatory hurdles that make that exploration process uncertain. And it's those uncertainties, again, that most people that, maybe you're the type that fishes for trouble, and maybe you enjoy, the thrill of maybe getting into trouble. So for those types of people, it's probably not going to faze them. But, for me, I'm very process oriented. Step one, step two, if this, then that. And, evaluating the potential chain of events. It's not doable. And again, if you can find a way for me to permissibly do this, to permissibly video flying a DJI FPV drone, if you can find a way that would be legally permissible, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but if you are, and you know a way to do that, I would love to hear your advice, because I am I'm mad. I want that drone. I want the DJI FPV. But I can't gamble with these gray areas, man. Brad, you bought it? Dude, hope you don't get locked up, man. Brad bought the DJI FPV. Dude, I hope you bought it through epicdroneshow.com. So you bought the DJI FPV. How are you going to fly it? Where are you going to fly it? Are you afraid? I mean, how are you going to fly it, man? A sports park. Oh, you got a sports park. You're fancy. You got a fancy park. We don't have parks. We got fields with grass and dog poop. That's all we've got. Baseball fields, soccer fields. Huh. That's fancy. Well, I'll say I'm excited to see the videos, man. I hope you don't get the feds knocking on your door, dude. Yeah, that's exciting. I don't know, man. You've got what's the word for it? Your risk tolerance is a lot greater than mine. Let's put it that way. That's cool, though. I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for you, man. I mean, hope it all works out okay. FLOS is a gray area, in my opinion. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't deal with struggle. I can't deal with having to deal with stuff. VLOS, visual line of sight. Yeah. I mean, but if you're standing in a field and you had your DJI FPV drone flying, you had the controller in your hands, and you had the goggles on your head, and you were filming that video and posting to YouTube, I would think that there would be a high degree of risk in that scenario, because they would see you with a controller in your hand, they would see the drone flying, and then they would see that you had goggles on. Now, from a video, could they prove that maybe there wasn't another operator and maybe you were just merely acting as if you were flying that drone? Who knows? Who knows what all they could try to pull out of a performance on video. I don't know. I mean, it scares me to death, man. I mean, this is just, I'm glad you're getting it, and it's something I think will help my business grow in the long run. No doubt, man. And dude, that's the thing for me. I want the DJI FPV because I want my business to grow. I mean, a big component of my business is drones. And to not be able to get the latest drone is, well, I shouldn't say not be able to get, because you can get it. Just go to epicdroneshow.com and you can buy the DJI FPV and all the accessories there. But for me to not allow myself to get it, skills in FPV will go a long way, in my opinion. I want to learn, so in 3 years I'm much better. Yeah, no doubt, man. I mean, it's yeah, the cost is your biggest concern. Yeah, it's oh man, that is an expensive piece of kit, as they would say. That's an expensive piece of kit, because it's yeah, I mean, over $1,000 US. Whoa, dude, that's not even with the little fancy, whatever they call it, the little one-handed controller. Yeah, man. I mean, that's some premium coin right there, dude. That's expensive. I mean, that is going balls deep into the drone investment. I did not. Yeah, that controller, man, that one-handed controller is just, that's man, got to go, but should do a live show sometime. Definitely, dude. You know, it'd be really cool when you get that thing, when you get that DJI FPV, and again, I think a live show, maybe this weekend, man. Shoot me a message. Maybe we can get a epic drone show and talk about it, and maybe you can have it on video and show us all about it. I think that'd be super cool, man. That is awesome. And again, everyone else out there, Brad bought the DJI FPV. Everyone else out there, you can expand this video's description. I've got a link there. It says DJI FPV, and you can find a link directly to it. You can also go to epicdroneshow.com. You can find DJI FPV, all the accessories, obviously all the other drones too. But man, these pants are bright. My shirt's bright, so I don't get hit by these people texting and driving, dude. Because it's a dangerous and scandalous world out there. You gotta be careful. Yes, you do. So, yeah, man. I mean, it is. I'm burning some calories. Yeah, Fatso's losing some weight, most definitely. But yeah, it's an exciting looking drone, I tell you. And I'm Brad. I'm so happy for you, man. I mean, that took some nerve, financial nerve, and other type of nerve as well, man. I mean, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it because of the gray areas. So we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but who knows? YouTube could be bombarded with all sorts of reports of whatever from this thing, because I can't imagine, being confronted by some sort of official. And if I had goggles, they'd be like, "Man, what you doing?" And then trying to explain all that. I don't know, man. It's just it's a scary thought. Extremely scary. So, I mean, you never know. It's getting dark, man. There's a helicopter landing. It's crazy, man. Helicopter's landing right now. Hovering over my field. The helicopter's hovering, dude. It's just flying around. So yeah, it's DJI FPV, man. Just got to see where this goes, but I'm sure Brad will tell us all about it. So yeah, I mean, any other thoughts y'all have about this, man? I mean, this is a big one, man. I mean, you know, first of breed, DJI's first person view drone. Be interesting to see how many people actually buy it. So, and you know, maybe there's a lot of people that buy it and don't want anybody to know because they're trying to hide it. Yeah, Brad, good to see you, man. Yeah, hit me up. Hit me up. Maybe we can do a live show this weekend. That'd be cool. See your DJI FPV in action. Yep, walking in circles, dude. I've walked a few miles so far. Fatso's losing some weight. Yes, he is. That's what it's all about, man. Exercise and chatting about drones. So, let's see, what else? Sony, you know, Sony's coming out with that drone. But I think it's going to be geared more towards like professional, like super professional video work, like probably outside of the current budget of Irish Guys Adventure Channel. So, you know, not to say it wouldn't be something in the future, but, you know, travel is going to have to rebound before I can justify a very expensive drone purchase, because, you know, I've got to go to those cool places to really capture exciting things to make it worthwhile. Because, again, everything on this channel tracks back to ROI, return on investment. So if I'm getting something that's not going to offer some sort of return, I'm wasting my money. And that's, that's part of being an independent YouTube channel. You've got to make those tough business decisions. You are your own CFO, Chief Financial Officer. You are your own CEO. And you're your own host. So, you gotta wear many hats, man. And one of those hats, unfortunately, is a financial hat. And you've always got to be concerned with ROI, return on investment. So, yeah, I mean, it's, and that's why I'm bummed about the DJI FPV, because not being able to allow myself to pick it up because of what I just stated earlier in this video is disappointing. It's deeply disappointing. I mean, it's disheartening, dude. I mean, it's not a good feeling. But it is a better feeling than having those uncertainties, tossing in bed at night, if I did get, which I'm not going to, unless there's some sort of concrete evidence that I could do it without entering any sort of gray area. But I couldn't imagine, let's say that I had allowed myself to, to get the DJI FPV. I couldn't imagine trying to go to sleep at night after flying it, because every time I heard my phone vibrate, or every time I heard something outside, I would think the FAA was coming to get me. I know that sounds ridiculous, but they do that, man. I know people that, there's been people that have had, didn't know what they were doing, and they were confronted. But this is a situation you can know exactly what you're doing, or think you know exactly what you're doing, and still land yourself in a lot of trouble. And that's why I'm avoiding it, because I feel that, again, I'm not a lawyer, but I feel that by reading what I've read, that I feel pretty confident that I have a pretty solid understanding of the verbiage. And I feel fairly confident that it scared me enough to not buy the DJI FPV. And if you're somebody that's not, I've been doing drones since, Phantom 2 came out. A little bit late adopter, got the Phantom 1 after Phantom 2 had been out for a while. But I've developed a brand here, and, it's not just like me versus some anonymous guy or girl going out and getting a drone and flying it. I've got a verifiable history with the industry, with the various drones. So, I couldn't play dumb and say, "Oh, I didn't know." I couldn't do that, because all you got to do is go back and watch a few of my videos and know that I talk about visual line of sight and other drone safety terms and regulatory terms. And, I would be a liar if I tried to play dumb. So for that reason, I've got to be ethically right. And being ethically right means that I cannot, unless regulations change, and someone that, has a legal background can comfort me and suggest ways that I can do this legally. Until that happens, I will not allow myself to purchase the DJI FPV, because, I would be taking it in the field, and I would be videoing it. And, the moment that I put those goggles on, I'd be setting myself up for potential issues. And I don't want that. Don't have time for it. Got too much going on. So it's just, one of those disappointing things that you gotta weigh the pros and the cons and make the best, what you feel is the best decision possible. And that's a calculated effort. You've got to go in and analyze it. And, and I analyzed it thoroughly, even when I received word that an FPV drone was coming, and that was many months ago. And, I I researched and scratched my head and thought about everything I could, and I couldn't identify any safe, 100% safe way to purchase DJI FPV and feature it like I'd want to feature it on my channel. So for that reason, the ROI, return on investment opportunity, does not exist. So if I did buy the DJI FPV, unless regulations change and there's a way for me to do it without going into international waters, which again, I'm not taking my boat out until all this pandemic stuff goes away. So I would basically be unboxing it. I would basically be looking at it and talking about it indoors, and that wouldn't be fun for the viewers. That wouldn't be fun for me, because then I would have spent potentially over $1,200 or so US, and I wouldn't be able to experience ROI, return on investment. I would just be blabbering on about something that I couldn't fully use or demonstrate because of those regulatory hurdles. So I mean, it's crazy, man. I mean, it's just you gotta thoroughly analyze everything before you jump in. I mean, it's like a swimming pool. You probably want to go and check it out. Okay, number one, is there water in the pool? Okay, that's a good thing. Well, just because there's water in it doesn't mean that it's safe to jump in. I mean, there could be objects that have been thrown in the pool that are beneath the surface that you can't see. So, that's a problem. And obviously, one would assume if they looked down and there was no water in the pool, that would be a potential safety hazard. So, that's, just things that you should think about. And in this context, being drones, there's a lot of unknowns. I mean, this is a pool that appears to have water, but well, maybe that's not water. Maybe it's a reflection. Okay, you get closer and it's like, well, yeah, that's definitely water, but what's that on the top? You find it, there's kind of kind of an algae or something that makes it where you can't really see below. Okay, well, it looks deep. This is the deep end. It says 10 feet on the end. It should be safe. But you can't see through the algae, so you don't know if there's maybe the diving board fell off and they threw it in the deep end, or they got drunk and threw chairs in there and they've rusted and they've got sharp parts sticking up. If you just dive in and can't see what you're getting into, it could be a life-changing experience, and not in a good way. So, to use that as an analogy, just be aware of what you're getting yourself into, and what is your risk tolerance. I mean, only you can answer that. That's not a question anyone else. Well, it's a question anyone could answer, but it's not a response that you should trust. You should only trust your own gut instinct. At least that's what I would do. I don't trust anyone. I really don't. But, with that being said, I mean, it's disappointing. DJI FPV, I'm excited that they released it, but, and it's funny because, one would think that a manufacturer as big as DJI, would have some sort of team that their marketing team could consult with and say, hey, we realize that there's going to be a lot of uncertainties. We realize that this may not sell as quickly as other drones because of all of those uncertainties. The fact that they haven't, at least to my knowledge, stepped up and tried to collaborate with some regulatory people to give the buyer, a sense of ease, that tells me there's a lot of uncertainties there. And, I'm not jumping in this pool, man. I'm really not. So, again, if you're a lawyer, if you work for the FAA, if you can provide something in written form that says, hey, this is permissible and here's why and here's how to do it. If you can do that and it's legally sound, if you can do that and provide me that documentation, I would love to buy the DJI FPV. I would love to take it out, review it, show the world how good it is, or how bad it is. I don't know. I haven't flown it. So, if you could do that for me, that would be cool. Now, obviously, I'm not paying anyone for that effort. If that's a skill set you have, then, you'd be you would have to be willing to donate your time to provide that information. But if you wanted to, that's cool, because, I would love to find a way to be able to buy. Well, it's not hard to know how to buy the DJI FPV. You just go to epicdroneshow.com and click buy a drone, and you can find DJI FPV and all the other DJI drones too. That's not the problem. The uncertainty that I have is, if I do buy it, how do I review it? How do I post videos to YouTube, since it is an FPV drone and you'd be wearing the goggles? And I'm not going to do it without goggles, because that's kind of lame. It's not the real experience. So who knows, man. But I just wanted to post this video because I feel like I let my viewers down by not getting this drone. And I just felt obligated to explain in depth why I did not buy this drone. Why I did not buy DJI FPV. First DJI drone I have not bought, except for those little crappy interim releases like I think it's called Obsidian and the Platinum. I didn't buy those, and I don't buy the Inspires. They're too big, they're too heavy. But other than that, I've bought all the DJI drones, except for DJI FPV. Kind of disappointing. Tell me what you think. Again, I am open to any sort of solid advice that you may be, able to provide. Again, if you work for the FAA and you can provide written documentation explaining how I could legally accomplish, what I'm trying to do, and that's film videos on YouTube with the DJI FPV. If you'd like to share that information with me for free, I would love to see that, because if you can do that and there's a way for me to accomplish that, I definitely want to do it. So, that's an open invitation for anyone. Again, it's not something that I would be paying anything for. It would be something that you would choose to donate to the channel. So, that's a choice you would make. And I'm not, I'm just disappointed I hadn't been able to buy it. Well, I hadn't allowed myself to buy it because of all the potential, legal, regulatory uncertainties. And again, I'm not a lawyer, but, I'm a person that reads into things and knows, hey, there's potential risk here. And I feel there's too much risk for me to go out and buy a DJI FPV unless I've got something in writing that confirms that's, legally sound, that confirms that I would be safe with flying that drone and videoing it on YouTube. But until someone can provide me with that solid documentation that would provide me with the certainty required to be able to go out and do it, I'm not going to touch that drone with anybody's pole. It is what it is. You got to be smart. You don't have to be, but it's probably in your best interest to be, because otherwise get yourself in a lot of trouble, and time's money and you're wasting your time. So appreciate y'all tuning in. I'm going to burn about 400 calories, nothing too intense. Enjoy being on this show. Thank y'all for your feedback. Oh, don't forget super chats. If you haven't super chatted, be sure to do so. And subscribe if you haven't. Ring that bell icon when you do, and that'll notify you whenever I post another video. And again, if you're shopping for DJI FPV, I hope I didn't scare everybody away. If you're still shopping for it, expand this video's description and then click the link there, and you can find where to order it online. That's the same with any other drones. I've got all the DJI drones. Just expand this video's description and click the link there, or simply head on over to epicdroneshow.com. You can find them all there. Thanks for your viewership, and y'all have a good day. Be safe.